So welcome back, Florida Southern Moccasins, to week module 3 of esports sponsorship activation. Today, we're really going to get into the meat of things, because we're now going to be focusing this week on endemic sponsors and their approach to esports. And the one thing I want to assure you is I did not cut my hair. My hair is here. It's just that even though I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania right now, I might as well be in Florida because it's 90 plus degrees out there with high humidity. And frankly, I'm dying. So let's get this show on the road as quickly as we can. So we'll do that. Share my screen, play, and it's showtime. So you've already seen this slide, so I don't need to show this to you again. Okay, so what are we going to cover this week? What we're going to cover this week is, again, endemic sponsors of esports, a little bit of history of endemic esports sponsorship, beginning with a definition of what we mean by endemic sponsor. And even there's controversy that we'll have to deal with. Ways in which the endemic sponsors invest in esports, because there's a variety of ways. What's their motivation for esports sponsorship by endemic companies? And what's the customer response to endemic esports sponsorship? So you can bet that this module, we're going to talk about Intel, HyperX, Logitech, Dell, Samsung, LG, as well as some sponsorship research, okay? So it all comes back down to building a brand sponsorship in esports. And with endemic sponsors, it becomes even more important because the endemic sponsor, without them, you don't have esports. Without them, you don't have gaming. Now, the one thing that we already know is that esports' sponsorship is a combination of endemic sponsors, non-endemic sponsors, user-generated content, user-generated donations, etc. And if we take a look at this slide, looking at sponsors at major esports tournaments, already we see a combination of endemic and non-endemic sponsors, each vying for the eyeballs and the loyalty of the esports viewer. And I think it also is important for us to take a step back and say, again, there are sponsors at major esports tournaments, but again, where is the money? Well, the money's coming from memberships. In other words, those people who are, in fact, members of the organization, followers of the teams, what have you. The tournaments themselves are where, we've already seen tremendous amounts of money. Although when you break it down, mathematically, it seems like, $888 per player, per professional player. Well, yeah, I mean, we could do that statistically with any particular job and realize that we're all working for peanuts. There are watch parties, which I'm going to assume but a watch party is, in fact, exactly what that is. It can be in person or online, where there's a group of you that are tuning into a particular tournament. There's concessions. The concessions, of course, are going to be instrumental to an in-person tournament. Then we come to sponsorships, the reason for this class. There are retail sales. All right, those retail sales are everything from jerseys to peripherals. And the peripherals are going to be very much a part of the endemic sponsor motivation, okay? Advertising, increasingly, you've got Bitcoin that is participating in various tournaments and esports, and then the whole non-fungible token connection. I've discussed all these in my other classes, but not particularly here, okay? So, definition. Endemic sponsors in esports are brands and companies that market themselves within the esports industry because their target market often attends esports events. Now, endemic brands offer products or services that are used in the production or playing of esports. Now, this is where this definition gets a little controversial, such as peripheral companies like HyperX, Razer, others. But then they include energy drink companies, as well as gaming hardware brands. I have an issue with energy drink companies. You can actually play esports without Red Bull, without G Fuel, without any other. You could actually drink water. You could actually drink coffee. You could be taking caffeine, you know. Uh, um, so, uh, actually, when we talk about non-endemic sponsors, I'm going to go a little bit more in depth into why I think including energy drink companies as an endemic sponsor is a little weird. Okay. Now, that said, when we take a look at the most represented brands in esports, who wins but a non-endemic endemic company called Monster Energy, right? But then we get down to Intel, we get to Secret Lab, we get to Acer, a little further down, Prime Gaming, Verizon. So you can see here that there's, you know, really a mix of endemic and non-endemic, but outside of Monster Energy, the top three at least are all endemic. In other words, they are instrumental and essential if you're going to be gaming and playing esports. So when we take a look at this, what are the most appropriate categories? And this says excluding endemics. So this would be like quasi-endemic, all right? Tech companies, internet service providers. There's that energy drinks and carbonated beverages and snack foods. Um, Personally, I think that tech companies and ISPs, internet service providers, are pretty much endemic because without them, we're definitely not going to have online esports. The least appropriate categories are really non-endemic, such as insurance, financial services, liquor, and beer. Okay. Next one. Stakeholder overlap and monetization approaches in the video gaming, esports, and video game streaming ecosystems. So, important slide. Let's dig in. Relevant in video gaming. Clearly, gaming hardware manufacturing. Okay. Also, TV channels, and relevant in video gaming related streaming would be streaming hardware manufacturers. I would include all of them and note all of them as being endemic. Quasi-endemic would be the event organizers, the streaming platforms, the esports players and teams. And when we take a look now at the monetization approaches, this is very important and you've got to soak it in. So we're taking a look right here, right at the bottom. And we're saying for endemic sponsors, it's all about hardware and game sales. It's about video gaming subscription services. It's about the reward of prize money, noting that that prize money is being provided by that particular sponsor, okay? And so I'm focusing just really on the endemic and what they're in this for. Now, when we take a look at the split between endemic and non-endemic, and this slide's a little bit old. You can see it's one I used for my Arizona State class. The fact of the matter is, it is still the case that a slim majority of the sponsorships in esports are from endemic sponsors. Again, sponsors highly associated with esports due to the use of or integration of their products and services into esports activities. We will take a look at non-endemic sponsors next week. So here, when we take a look at endemic advertising, we see a flow, okay? There's the virtual nature of online gaming. In other words, the competition and the cooperation, where endemic sponsors really see that they have a purpose here. Then when we get to the professionalization of sites, events, and players, the endemic sponsor really ratchets up its significance and its investment. And then connecting to personalities and various locations becomes the next step. Or you could almost say sort of like a pinnacle step because it is target marketing of that consumer market. Now, we've got to also take a look at the consumer. So what are the attitudes to sponsorship in esports? In other words, in this chart, what's the percentage of esports fans who say the following about esports sponsorships? Brands are usually well suited to the esports event sponsors. 46%, less than 50% say that that is the case. All right. 42% say that sponsors of esports events are critical to their success. That, frankly, is naivete. They're much more essential than that. Only 39% say it's okay for brands not related to esports to sponsor teams or events. This is something that we're going to need to keep in mind when we talk about non-endemic sponsors. And 24% say there's too much advertising at esports events. Well, again, I think that's a little bit naive. Now, let's take a look at another slide, which gives us additional information, some of which is slightly at odds with what we just saw. And that's really a point I want to raise. You know, there's an old saying, there are statistics and damn statistics and then outright lies. So the fact of the matter is, because we're seeing this with polls, and polls, can you have a biased poll? Yes. Can you have a biased questionnaire? Of course you can. And so you've got to be cautious. All right. You've really got to be very cautious when you're taking a look at any of these polls and any of these questionnaires. But in this particular one, let's take a look. The percentage of individuals who believe that a brand provides their products to a winner or of an event. 56% say that is good. And of course it's good. It's one of the reasons why when we're dealing with endemic sponsors, very often their donation is going to be in the form of hardware, all right, in the form of a peripheral, in the form of a service, in the form of some gift, you could say, some prize, could be a gift card that allows the winner to purchase that product or service from the endemic sponsor at a discount or what have you, right? 54% say that a brand provides prize money to a winner of an event. Well, why that isn't higher is beyond me, because you provide the money to the event, I'm more than happy, right? 53% like the fact that a brand runs a sweepstakes or a giveaway for esports tickets or merchandise, swag. We all know swag stands for stuff we all get. Well, sometimes we don't all get it. So swag becomes something that is really significant in terms of a prize. 51% say that a pro esports game or team uses the equipment from a sponsor brand. Frankly, that should be higher. For the most part, that's going to be what we call an advertising product placement. That's going to be if we talk non-endemic, that'll be the streamer or the influencer who's drinking that particular beverage while he or she is playing. Or for an endemic, it's the individual who is playing on a particular keyboard, wearing particular headset, using a particular mouse, what have you. 51% say a brand is the sole sponsor for a live event or competition, really heightens the interest. Again, I don't know why that isn't higher. And even 51% say that a brand is the sole sponsor of a live stream of an esports event or competition, which basically leads us right into the next example of such when we look at the Intel Extreme Masters, which is sponsored by ESL, but it's really Intel. Now, this is huge, okay? The Intel Extreme Masters is one of the most sought after events of the esports calendar, okay? It is, you can see here, a global challenge where 8 teams, $500,000, but it is also an in-person event that is significant. And it has become global, okay? Here you're taking a look, April 17 to 23, the Intel Extreme Masters is in Rio de Janeiro. And that is because Intel is realizing that, as something we saw a little bit earlier in a module, that Southeast Asia and South America we have the greatest growth of esports participation. And so that means buying machines, and that's buying machines that have Intel chips. Now, why is Intel doing this? Because Intel isn't the only one making chips for gaming machines. Okay, Riser's making chips. IBM is making chips. AMD is making chips. But Intel wants to be the sponsor thereof. Now, let's take a look at other endemic sponsors and how they are getting involved. Take a look at Dell, which is combined with Intel, and they are sponsoring the British Esports Federation, which recently announced a 2-year collaboration with major hardware brands, Dell Technologies and Intel. In other words, Dell machines that feature Intel chips in them. All right. And becoming the official technology and hardware partner of British esports. Now, on Module 7, when I start to talk about global government investment and involvement and all that, we're going to see that British esports is not a government-sponsored esports group in the United Kingdom, but it is, in fact, a federation. And it's a federation that's focused more on convincing British colleges and universities that esports as a sport, as an intramural or an intramural, is something that they need to consider, and they need to look at the educational ramifications of esports as it relates to science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Okay, but Dell isn't alone in being an endemic sponsor, because now we take a look at Alienware. Okay. Which is in fact Dell, but it's a different brand, right? So League of Legends is Dell Alienware that is sponsored. Now let's delve into that. Thanks to a sponsorship with Dell Technologies and its iconic gaming brand Alienware, a new space at Michigan State University provides an elite gaming environment for students to train and compete in esports at the highest level. So what is the nature of the Dell partnership with Michigan State University or with other universities? And that is either in the donation of the machines or a significant discount in the machines, so that when this college or university is creating an esports location, they are opting for Dell and using Alienware. Here in Pittsburgh, there are a number of colleges and universities with Dell connections who are using Alienware, who have used Alienware gaming PCs, who have either gotten it for free or have gotten it at a discount. So here, to continue with MSU, sponsored by the MSU College of Communication Arts and Sciences, the Alienware MSU Esports Lounge is the university's first dedicated space for students engaged in esports. Those of you who are resident at Florida Southern are very familiar with the connection between an endemic sponsor and a college and university. The Snake Pit, all right? The Snake Pit at Florida Southern is a clear example of endemic sponsorship writ large. But there are other ways. Let's take a look at the HyperX esports arena in Las Vegas. Now, this is massive, okay? This is HyperX, which is a peripheral company that has, in fact, built out, actually in the old Luxor pyramid in Las Vegas, an esports arena. And so the HyperX arena there is a sponsorship by HyperX peripheral company because it wants gamers to use its peripherals. Let's look at another example of that, okay? Here we have Acer, which is another PC company that is behind the esports stadium in Arlington, Texas. Now, the stadium in Arlington, Texas is really one of the major places for esports tournaments. It's a massive build out and all that. But Acer is the one that's presenting itself as the sponsor because it is competing with Dell. It's competing with every other Lenovo or every other company that is making gaming machines. Okay, now let's take a look at another one, NWC Esports announcing a sponsorship with HyperX. Now, this is Northwestern College in Iowa. The one thing that you may have noticed if you're into this is that NACE, the National Association of Collegiate Esports, really is a gathering, is a federation of smaller colleges and universities. And that is because the NCAA still refuses to recognize esports as a sport. Consequently, you've got a number of smaller colleges and universities, and I think we would have to include Florida Southern among them, who are members of NACE and who have benefited from the desire of various endemic sponsors to get in front of the students there. Okay. Another example of an endemic sponsor is iBuyPower. Okay, iBuyPower is very big with the University of California, Irvine, and is another PC company that wants to attract individuals. Here sponsoring VCT Americas. And frankly, iBuyPower has been very good, primarily in donations to colleges and universities. But wait, there's more. Because if we take a look here, we're looking at Logitech. Logitech is another one of those primarily peripheral companies competing with HyperX that is wanting teams and schools to use its keyboards and its headsets and its mice and what have you. And Logitech has gone very much towards tournaments. You see Logitech here sponsoring the League of Legends European Championship. And we've mentioned ways in which endemic companies can, in fact, promote themselves. So here you see Logicool giveaway, okay? And what are they giving away? All right, the Pro X Super Light, the wireless headset, the gaming special speaker tags, all of these things are ways in which an endemic sponsor can infiltrate itself and market itself to esports gamers and players. But it gets even more interesting and complicated because we are in the middle of an evolution in gaming. And that evolution of gaming is in the form of mobile esports. And the one thing we've seen with smartphones is that they basically can do everything. And in gaming, especially in Asia, smartphones are kind of taking over, all right? So when we take a look at this, it makes only sense that a company that is huge in smartphones, such as Samsung, becomes involved in esports. So much so that Twitch has signed Samsung to become a new sponsor of its Rivals platform. The Rivals platform is really a tournament design specifically for smartphones. This is where the company will activate its Galaxy smartphones by holding mobile gaming tournaments. So you can see here how Samsung, a hardware developer, basically for telecommunications, realizes that it can essentially leapfrog the current endemic structure, all right, by basically saying, that Galaxy phone you got, it's now your means to esports mobile gaming. So much so that we're seeing the sponsorship of Samsung really being honed with sponsoring particular teams around the world and all that, to the degree where you can get the Samsung Galaxy official shirt sponsorship here for Team Gullet, right? But think of it, if you are a fledgling esports team, and you're looking for advertising, you're looking for sponsorship, you can reach out to Samsung and say, hey, can you donate your shirts to us? Because as we are streaming and as we are competing, then everyone will see it. And closer to home, Samsung sponsors T1, all right, which is the #1 team, arguably, in Korea, but with Faker, who you see Faker here, right? So that Samsung is now sponsoring T1 with monitors made by Samsung. So Samsung is involved in traditional hardware esports gaming, but it is also involved in the evolution and transformation of esports into mobile gaming. And its sponsorship of SK Telecom, which is now transformed into T1, is very significant. But again, Samsung is not resting on its laurels. Here you see Samsung Galaxy partnering with NRG for the PUBG mobile tournament. And it gets even better because what do we have here? The Samsung Gamer Night 2023, the Santa Cup, featuring Rocket League. And Rocket League, frankly, is it's significant to me because Rocket League, I think, looks great on traditional PCs, where it's big and you can see everything happening. But it also is transferred pretty well to mobile, which kind of surprised me. Now, if Samsung's doing it, LG has to get involved, right? I mean, because Samsung and LG, they are, the Korean dynamos in terms of technology. So here we have, the AV Technology Esports Thought Leader Series featuring Heather Blair, the Senior Account Manager of Esports for LG. So LG is sponsoring, not only is it sponsoring tournaments and games and what have you, it's sponsoring the thought leadership when it comes to esports. Here we have another example, a brilliant one, in fact, where LG Ultra Gear is involved in EMEA, the League of Legends Europe, Middle East, and Asia Championship. In other words, LG is like, you know what? We're now going to go for where the growing market is, and maybe we can undercut Samsung by sponsoring and getting our name out there to the Middle East and Asia, especially growing Asia and all that. So what we have here is LG Ultra Gear and the LEC partnership extended for 2 years. And so LG will become the gaming monitor brand and serving as the official monitor partner for LOL, League of Legends European Esports in 2024 and beyond. LG, again, is doing it big. Here we see the Mobile Open combined with AT&T and LG. So we've got LG with pursuing its hardware combined with AT&T with the ESL Mobile. So these partnerships make total sense. If you are a telecommunications company, you want to definitely be partnering with the telecommunication purveyor, the one that's got the towers up there, what have you. Here we see LG Ultra Gear again presenting itself with the Esports World Cup, where its Ultra Gear monitors are being presented and promoted as the ideal gaming monitors for competitive gamers or passionate creatives. But it's also promoting its technology. These high refresh rate monitors feature up to 240 hertz of high-speed response time that are faster than 1 millisecond. Okay, so you can see that they're not just promoting their brand name, they're promoting the guts of the technology that makes it even better. Okay, that positions it above the competition. But there's even more. If you take a look at KRU Esports, which is the pioneering Argentinian esports organization, it has joined forces with the industry-leading sponsorship analytics company, Shikenso Analytics. All right. Now, analytics, I would say, is endemic to esports, especially endemic to professional esports, because a company like Shikenso Analytics is driven by a mission to bridge the gap between the world of traditional professional sports and the ever-expanding universe of electronic sports and digital media writ large. So KRU is dedicated to challenging and destigmatizing prevailing socioculture perceptions surrounding video gaming. And what it means by that, if you were to really delve into that, is saying that there's a lot you as an individual can learn by the way you game. In the same way, there's a lot we as individuals can learn by the way we eat, by the way we socialize, by the way we drink, by the way we do all manner of things. And yet, when we're doing it digitally, all of that is captured. So again, the central thing about KRU, this Argentinian esports organization, is the cultivation of professional, transparent relationships with its partners. So by entering into this data partnership with Shinkensu Analytics, it's hoping to harness the power of cutting-edge artificial intelligence technology, because Shinkensu promotes itself as having best-in-class AI technology, which provides a comprehensive suite of tools to analyze partnerships across streaming and social media channels, thus enabling precise measurement and benchmarking of partner performance. We're going to see increasingly more and more data analytic companies getting involved in this. Now, part of the issue is that when you have a streaming site like Twitch, Twitch has its own analytics, and it hasn't really done a great job of promoting Twitch analytics outside of the Twitch platform. We're going to find that YouTube has its own analytics, and Facebook is trying to have its own analytics. But these are increasingly going to become endemic companies. Now, I'm going to throw out a quasi-endemic company to esports that you might take odds with, but I'm a veteran, 6 years in the Air Force Reserve, and you'll notice the U.S. Army and the U.S. Air Force are major sponsors of esports tournaments. Now, think about this, okay? That's because if you follow the news, as depressing as it is, and you know that there's a war being fought between Russia and the Ukraine using drones, well, drones are basically driven by handheld interface devices that are very similar to gaming devices, okay? Especially if you're a console gamer. If you're a gamer using consoles, Xbox One, PS5, and what have you, the U.S. Army and the U.S. Air Force want you. Now, let's take a little step back here, okay? What are the benefits, again, of esports for marketers? Just like traditional professional sports, esports teams have owners, franchises, endorsement deals, cash prizes, and more, all contributing to annual revenue and total valuation. So when we look at esports from a marketing perspective, and this is something we could do with every module we're looking at, it's often pictured as amateur video game players who stream on platforms like Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Now, some marketers approach these different facets of the gaming industry in tandem, which we've seen primarily from the endemic sponsors, because there is a good deal of overlap between the players and the platforms. So what does this mean? This means that marketers who offer esports advertising can benefit from advertising and sponsorship revenues from organized esports competitions based on digital platforms. Esports don't come with the same tech hurdles for brands that advertise in the as advertising in the metaverse, but it can still be the right channel for specific advertisers. And folks, that is a very important word throughout this course: specificity and target marketing. That is the one thing that esports offers that advertising in the internet writ large does not offer. In fact, you can see here in the Journal of Business Research, they have even laid out, you could say, a chart, for lack of a better word, looking at sponsorship image. And the sponsorship image, if you take a look at this, is the factors that are involved in this are the ubiquity of the sponsor. Ubiquity meaning it's a universal appeal, it's national appeal, how well known it is. If something is ubiquitous, it is basically like everywhere or all over the place. The sincerity of the sponsor. Well, if you're an endemic sponsor, you're definitely sincere, because without your service or your product or service, you can't game. And the attitude of the sponsor. What are you going in there? How are you promoting yourself? And how are you hoping to appeal? And that it becomes combined when those are part of team identification. So all of that goes into creating the sponsorship image. Now, the sponsorship response, what interest does the customer have in that? What is the purchase intention? Like, am I satisfied with my current keyboard? Do I want something better? Do I want some that is better illuminated? Do I want something that is more ergonomic, in terms of my playing? Do I want something that is lit in certain ways? All right. All of that's going to go into the purchase intention and word of mouth. And again, one of the things that we have seen is that word of mouth is still number one. The difference is mouth has been replaced by UGC, user-generated content. The reviews that are there, the recommendations that are there, the what appears on Yelp, what appears on all manner of critical sites. That is word of mouth. When you combine interest, purchase intention, and word of mouth, those become the participation parameters. Absolutely terrific. Now, the fact that sponsor factors have an important and positive effect on sponsorship image, which implies that awareness measures are used to indicate the level of involvement consumers have with a particular sponsor and their image transfer, serves to strengthen the sponsorship response relationship in esports. In addition, the most decisive antecedent of sponsorship image focuses on the sponsor, and their decisions are going to determine whether a sponsor has successful image in this new sporting discipline. So again, we go back to the ubiquity of the sponsor. In other words, if you're a brand new chip manufacturer, if you're a brand new hardware manufacturer, a brand new peripheral manufacturer, already you're at a disadvantage because you're not ubiquitous, okay? However, how do you make up for that? Maybe it's the sincerity of your sponsorship. We see this in traditional advertising when you have, companies that are there saying, we may not be the best, well-known. In fact, here in Pittsburgh, it's the headquarters of PNC Banking, which is becoming nationwide. And PNC Banking has rolled out a very intriguing and kind of bizarre advertising dynamic, calling itself boring. We are a boring bank. Okay, we're boring. There's another insurance company, NRG or something, that promotes itself as, there are no mottos or figures, etc. That's one way they're trying to enhance their sincerity. Whether it works or not, we're going to find out. But the fact of the matter is, this is a good overview of how endemic sponsors are relating in esports. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the lecture for Module 3. Remember, I've given you a slew of additional resources for you to take a look at. And so I urge you to look at many of those resources, especially if you are aspiring to get involved in esports marketing and what have you. Okay, folks, very good. And I'll see you for Module 4.